This is the exact system that any man can use to save his marriage and rebuild trust with his wife, even when she's emotionally shut down and says it's over. And how I've helped hundreds of high achieving men turn around marriages that seemed completely hopeless, even if they were ex husbands. Just as proof, I've been working with married men for over 5 years now. I've helped over hundreds of men save their marriages. And honestly, a lot of these guys came to me when things looked impossible and their wives had completely checked out. Some were separated, some were facing divorce papers, but that's not the marriages I focus on anymore. I'm optimizing for real transformation, for men who are ready to lead, for marriages that don't just survive, but they actually thrive. And because I have a really deep tracking system in place, which I'll talk about later, I can see not just the men that are saving their marriages, I can see the exact behaviors and actions that led to the breakthrough. And they're never the things you'd think. In fact, just last quarter, I looked at our most successful clients, the guys who went from she's done to she's back and better than ever. Some weird patterns starting to show up. Number one, their wives started initiating connection again, physical touch, deep conversations, things that had been dead for months or even years. And on top of that, when we tracked the timeline of these transformations, we saw that the breakthrough moment almost always came after the man stopped doing what seemed logical. He stopped trying to talk her into staying. He stopped chasing. He stopped explaining. Instead, he started leading differently, and the results were incredible. This is one client we worked with, and at the end of last year, his name was David. He came to us separated, sleeping on an air mattress in his friend's basement. His wife wanted nothing to do with him. Within 30 days, they were back together. Within 90 days, she told him she felt safer with him than she ever had. That's how powerful this can be if you do it correctly. So by the end of today, you're going to know how to consistently rebuild trust, ignite connection, and lead your marriage back from the edge. And the truth is, right now, from both my personal experience and from people I've talked to every single day, I'm seeing more and more marriages struggle. Good men, men who work hard, men who provide, men who thought they were doing everything right, but their wives are cold, distant, checked out. And that's because what used to work in marriages no longer works. The nice guy approach fails. Therapy feels like just rehashing old pain with no real progress. And giving her space just makes her pull further away, which is leading to you walking on eggshells every single day. And that destroys safety more. Feeling like a stranger in your own home, watching your kids grow up in a broken household and wondering if it's already too late. And all of that really sucks because you and I both know that you're a good man. And you provide. You show up. You're way better than most guys out there. You see, men who treat their wives like garbage and somehow their marriages are fine. And you know what it's like when things were good. Maybe when you first got married, maybe a few years ago when things were still really strong. But this year, things fell apart. Your marriage isn't where it used to be, and it should be. And maybe you're even seeing the possibility of divorce. And that's because all of a sudden, whatever you were doing previously no longer works. I know that because that's exactly what happened to me. I started seeing, about the middle of my marriage years ago, things started declining. My wife started pulling away, conversations got shorter, intimacy disappeared. And I started seeing our connection decrease. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I was failing at the one thing that mattered most. So today, I'm going to show you a much safer, more effective way to save your marriage. And this is going to be regardless of where you're at right now, whether she's checked out, whether you're separated, whether she says it's over. And the best part is you don't have to constantly convince her. You don't have to beg or chase or wait around hoping she changes her mind. You don't have to go through months of therapy, and you don't have to change who you are. So what are we covering? Well, number one, why your approach is to saving your marriage is silently failing and the shocking reason it's actually not your fault. Number 2, why masculine emotional leadership is the most untapped marriage saving strategy hidden in plain sight and how to master it in just weeks. Number 3, the only difference between men who lose their marriages and those who rebuild them stronger than ever. Oh, and finally, I'm going to show you the 4-step emotional layering protocol, including the one simple shift that helped one of my clients go from blocked to separated back together in 30 days. Now, you might want to skip ahead to the protocol at the end. You're more than welcome to do that. We'll put some timestamps down in the description below. But if you're still struggling to connect with your wife right now, if you feel like nothing you do is working, I'd really recommend that you watch up to that part. All the stuff leading up to there is extremely important because it's going to start to explain why things are why they are. So I truly believe this is the greatest opportunity for you to save your marriage and rebuilding your family that you'll ever get. So let's start with why your approach to saving your marriage is no longer working and why it's actually not your fault. So here's the hard truth. We are in a crisis, but not the crisis that you think. We're in a trust crisis in marriages. Your wife doesn't trust you anymore, not because you're a bad man, not because you provide, not because you don't care, but because somewhere along the way, she stopped feeling emotionally safe with you. This is why you're making things worse by doing what seems right. Examples of what seems right but actually fails includes apologizing over and over, doing more chores around the house, giving her, space, being nicer, and trying to talk through problems. Pretty much anything that tries to convince her you're changed before she's actually felt the change. And if you don't believe me, think back to the last few months. Have you ever tried being nicer? Have you tried doing more around the house? Have you tried giving her space? Have you tried talking calmly and rationally about problems? Probably. And did it work? Probably not. She's probably just colder now. And that's because your wife isn't looking for words. She's looking for leadership. And experts who study marriage call this phenomenon the emotional safety gap. After working with hundreds of married couples, they identified on that average, when a wife says, "I'm done," there are actually 7 major moments when she stopped feeling safe across 11 different areas of the relationship in 4 different emotional layers. So let's kind of break this down so you really understand it. 7 major moments. These are the times when you responded to her in a way that made her just feel unsafe emotionally. Maybe you got defensive. Maybe you dismissed her feelings. Maybe you shut down. Maybe you blamed her. The 11 different areas, they're the specific parts of the relationship where trust broke down. This could be through how you communicate, how you handle conflict, how you show affection, how you lead the family, how you respond to stress. All of that, right? And the 4 emotional layers, well, these are the deepest levels of connection. There's surface level communication, there's emotional vulnerability, there's physical intimacy, and spiritual connection. So in short, if I had to summarize this entire concept, it means that the more times your wife felt unsafe with you, the less she trusts you, the more she shuts down. So take a second really quick and take a hard look at your marriage. How many times has your wife tried to open up to you emotionally and you shut her down? How many times has she told you something was wrong and you tried to fix it instead of listening? How many times has she reached out for connection and you were too busy, too tired, or too stressed? If you're like most men that I talk to on a daily basis, it's probably a lot more than you realize. And as if that weren't enough, as if the trust crisis wasn't enough for a reason why your approach isn't working right now, there's one more reason why nothing you do seems to bring her back. You're trapped in a pattern. And here's what I mean by that. Every marriage goes through what I call a connection cycle. At first, when you were dating, when you were newlyweds, connection, easy. She feels safe, you feel confident, everything just flows. But over time, life happens. Kids come, work gets stressful, money gets tight, and slowly, without even realizing it, you stop leading. You stop being present. You stop making her feel like a priority, and she starts to pull away. At first, it's small. She's a little quieter, a little less affectionate, a little more irritable, but you don't notice. Or you do notice, but you think it's just a phase. You think she's just stressed, she'll get over it. So you keep doing what you're doing. And she pulls further away. Now, she's not quiet. She's cold. She's not just less affectionate. She's completely shut down. She's not just irritable. She's angry. And now you notice. Now you panic. So you want to try to fix it. And you do try to fix it. You apologize. You try harder. You do more chores. You give her space. You try to talk about it. But none of it works because you're still stuck in the same pattern, the pattern of reacting instead of leading. And the longer you stay in that pattern, the worse, the absolute worse it gets. Eventually, she says the words no man wants to hear. I love you, but I'm not in love with you. Or worse, I'm done. And now you're here trying to figure out how to save your marriage. So there's really only one way that I've learned to break that pattern. That's what I've created. And that's what I call the emotional layering protocol. And in this protocol, you don't try to convince her. You don't try to talk her into staying. You don't try to be nicer and do more. Instead, you become a different kind of leader. You become the kind of man she can feel safe with again, because your leadership becomes the foundation of your marriage. It protects her. It guides her. It creates the space where she can finally breathe again. It's the one thing that no other man can replicate. Nobody can lead your wife the way you can. Nobody can make her feel the way you can. Nobody can rebuild trust with her the way you can. This is what separates the men who save their marriages from the men who lose them. Even the most broken marriage in the most hopeless situation can still be saved with the right kind of leadership. And here are 3 really obvious examples of that. I had a client named Conrad. His wife had left him. He was sleeping on an air mattress, separated. She wanted nothing to do with him. Within 1 week of working together, we started talking again. And then 30 days, they were back together. I had another client named Jacob. He came to me completely shut down emotionally. His wife had separated from him and cut off all communication. We did one exercise together, the mirror exercise, where he looked at himself and asked, where is the hero within me? And everything changed. He realized he had been carrying himself without confidence, without presence. And once he fixed that, his wife started feeling safe again. I had another client named Kent. He was doing everything right on paper. He was making good money. He was taking his family on vacation, great house, great life. But his wife still said, I'm not in love with you anymore. Because even though he paid the bills, even though he took care of everything, she didn't feel emotionally safe. It wasn't that, it wasn't what he was saying. It was how he was saying it. It was how he was showing up. So don't ever let me hear you say that you don't have time to work on your marriage or that it's already too late. It's arguably the most important thing that you can do with your life. And many of you, right, are familiar with the concept. You're always building 2 lives, one of today and one of tomorrow. And if you never focus on the marriage of tomorrow, well, then you end up in this broken pattern where you eventually lose everything. So now that you know your wife needs to feel safe with you more than ever before, and that every marriage will eventually hit this crisis point, and the only way to avoid divorce is becoming a different kind of leader, let's talk about why the emotional layering protocol is the perfect system to rebuild trust and save your marriage. Look, here's the truth, okay? By creating strategic trust-building actions through the emotional layering protocol, you systematically rebuild emotional safety, building trust, credibility, and connection with your wife at a deep level. These actions will make your wife feel again, educate her emotionally that you're different now, and show her through your behavior, not your words, that you've changed. Oh, and it'll let her, in essence, try you out again before fully opening back up. So this is all happening without you having to convince her of anything. Then, in my opinion, it's the easiest, most sustainable, and long-term method to saving your marriage, which enables you to rebuild your family, protect your kids, and live with peace again. This protocol helps my clients avoid the "I don't believe you'll ever change" objection. It eliminates the need for endless therapy sessions. It stops the cold, distant behavior, and it creates real, lasting attraction again. We went from "I'm done" to "I'm feeling safer with you than I ever have." The emotional layering protocol is the most untapped marriage saving strategy that nobody is talking about. And we're quickly becoming a movement. It's based on 3 core stages: healing, shifting, and bonding. And each stage systematically rebuilds one layer of trust. In the healing stage, you focus on the emotional safety. You stop reacting, you start responding. You create the space where she can finally breathe again. In the shifting stage, you focus on masculine leadership. You stop orbiting her emotions. You start leading with purpose, and you become the kind of man she can follow again. In the bonding stage, you focus on deep connection. You stop surface level conversations. You start real intimacy. You create the kind of leadership where she actually wants to be close to you again. And just to show you a few examples of this, right? I had a client who come to me separated. His wife wouldn't talk to him. Within 30 days of following this protocol, she reached out. She said, "I don't know why, I just feel like I can talk to you again." Another example is a client who came to me with a wife who was completely shut down. No affection, no conversation, no connection. Within 60 days of following this protocol, she told him, "I feel like I'm falling in love with you all over again." Another client who came to me on the verge of divorce, papers were ready, she was done. Within 90 days of following the protocol, they renewed their vows. If you master the emotional layering protocol, you can save your marriage even when it seems impossible. Even if your situation seems different, because every marriage is unique, the algorithm of the human emotion is predictable. It's patterns. I kid you not. I have guys always saying, "No, it's like you're telling the future." I'm like, I've seen this too many times. It's patterns. Your wife's emotional system works in a specific way. And when you understand that system, you can lead her back to safety because your wife's emotions are like a compass. And when you provide the right kind of leadership, her emotions naturally point back to you. The reason most men fail to save their marriage is because they focus on the wrong things. Speed is only good when you're pointing at the right direction. They focus on logic, on explaining, on convincing, on doing more. But your wife doesn't need more words. She doesn't need more apologies. She doesn't need more gifts or gestures. She needs you to become the man she can feel safe with again. And the emotional layering protocol is the safest way to do that. For example, most marriage advice tells you to communicate more, to talk about your feelings, to be vulnerable. But that only works if she feels safe. If she doesn't feel safe, talking more just makes things worse. The emotional layering protocol focuses on safety first, communication second. On top of that, most marriage advice just tells you to give her space, to let her figure things out, to wait for her to come around. But space without leadership just creates more distance. The emotional layering protocol focuses on leading first, space second. So imagine saving your marriage in just 30 to 90 days. Even when she says it's over, even when she's completely shut down. And the emotional layering protocol also works in the most difficult situations: separation, emotional shutdown, even affairs. Actually, affairs are really our bread and butter. I don't like to say this, right? Like there's nuance here, right? But affairs are easy. It's extremely easy. Here's another study done on marriage success rates. And you can see that marriages have survived long terms are the ones where husbands lead with emotional strength. Not control, not dominance, but calm, steady, confident leadership. And you can see that confident leadership is the number one predictor of marriage success. More than communication, more than date nights, more than anything else. In addition to that, the emotional layering protocol works the fastest with high achieving men. So this is another insight here. And you can see that men who are successful in business, in their careers, in life, and actually have high success rates saving their marriages, as long as they apply the same discipline that they use at work to their marriage. 90% of men who fully commit to the protocol save their marriages. Now, let's compare that with traditional therapy. Only 30% of couples who go to therapy report long-term improvement. But probably my favorite part of the emotional layering protocol compared with every other marriage-saving strategy is what we call built-in momentum. You see, the protocol automatically builds on itself. Each stage makes the next stage easier. So, for example, once you've mastered the healing stage, she starts feeling safe again. The shifting stage starts happening naturally. You start building up your Renaissance man. She starts respecting your leadership. She starts following your lead. And once you master the shifting stage, she starts respecting you even deeper. The bonding stage happens naturally. She starts wanting connection. She starts initiating affection. So it's creating a positive feedback loop that only gets stronger over time. It accelerates the trust building process, getting you closer to saving your marriage. And the best part is this all happens without you having to force anything. And this means that you don't constantly need to convince her. You don't need to beg. You don't need to chase. For example, other than the initial work in the healing stage, the rest of the protocol is just being consistent. Showing up every day, leading with strength, with a depth that is being the way of man. Yet, literally, within weeks, men are seeing their wives soften, open up, come back. As if all of that weren't enough, if you're still not sold on why you need to learn the emotional layering protocol, the part about it that allowed me to help over hundreds of men save their marriage is how simple it is to apply. For example, traditional therapy requires hours every week, expensive sessions, talking about the past over and over and over again, no clear action steps moving forward. But the emotional layering protocol is action-based. You're not talking about the problems, you're fixing the foundation. So in less than 30 minutes a day, you can rebuild emotional safety, restore masculine leadership, and save your marriage. And there's a reason why every successful marriage coach and relationship expert, they're trying to get their hands on it. They're trying to figure out what we're doing over here. They're trying to figure out why the heroic husband is becoming a movement. Here's just a couple of screenshots of the success that we've had, and you can go check out the interviews over on our YouTube channel here. So if you don't believe me, if you don't believe the data, I almost guarantee you that one expert you respect, they started to kind of poke their head. See, what's Noah doing over there? Why are things so strong? Why are we getting recognized on all levels and all fronts? And you have to ask yourself, well, why is that? The old objection to this approach was that it takes too long to see results. But people used to say, oh, marriage transformation is a long game. It takes years. But with that, I'm about to show you, you've never had to worry about that same problem again. Take example, one of my clients, call him David, who applied the healing stage. His wife reached out to him not too long later. He actually just messaged me and said that they had their best month in years. Now she's opening up again. And she said, I'm not going anywhere. So literally, next day after applying this, his wife started softening. Now, before I show you how the system works, I do need to be clear about something. This isn't about being perfect. This isn't about never making mistakes. This isn't about becoming someone who you're not. This is the exact opposite of what every marriage therapist teaches. There's a reason why my simple, masculine approach saves marriages while they're still talking about feelings and communication for months with no results. This is a strategic system for generating maximum results with minimum effort. So if you just want to talk about your problems, if you just want to vent and feel heard, well, that's fine. You could do that, but I'm talking to men who are serious about saving their marriages, men who are willing to lead, men who want a plan that actually works. And if you're watching this right now and you're thinking, that's exactly where I'm at, I'm ready to stop guessing and start leading, I need to tell you something. Do not wait. Don't wait. Use the link below, book a call with my team. We'll map out the same game plan that's already helped hundreds of men rebuild their marriages. And look, this isn't a pitch. It's a strategy session. We'll walk you through the emotional learning protocol step by step. And if we can help you, we'll tell you. If we can't, we'll tell you that too. So click the link below and let's see if we can help you save your marriage. All right. So how do you save your marriage even when she says it's over? Well, let's get into our 4-step system. Step 1 is you have to unlock the hero within. This is one of the most powerful shifts ever discovered. It's a result of working with hundreds of men and tracking exactly what behaviors led to breakthrough moments with their wives. Up until I understood this, men were kind of trying random tactics, right? They'd be nicer, they maybe apologize a little more, which we could talk about that later, how it destroys your word. They'd try doing more chores and giving her space, which are all lower level needs, but they had no real understanding of what was actually working. And it would be like, trying to fix a car without knowing what's actually broken. And everyone knows that in order to fix something, you need to understand what's actually going on, what's actually wrong. But here's the thing most men miss. Before you can fix a relationship, you have to fix yourself first. And after working with so many men and tracking the results, it became so obvious what actually saves marriages. And what I understand now that I didn't know back then was most men are externally focused when they should be looking to be internally grounded. So let me walk you through the difference in these two, because this was the reason I went from helping men who kept failing to helping men who consistently succeeded. So externally focused men do what we call fix her first thinking. They say, what's wrong with her? Okay, let me change her mind. And they jump straight into convincing mode. They will literally do anything to make her happy. They'll do all the chores. They'll apologize 100 times. They'll buy flowers. They'll plan date nights. They're focusing on her emotions. Whatever she says is the problem, they try to fix it immediately. It's exhausting. And the only way it works is if they already are the man that she needs. But they're not. The main focus for external focused men is her response, which is bad, destroys polarity. That's what they're optimizing for. And in my opinion, most marriage advice falls into this category. Do more, be nicer, communicate better. But I can tell you right now from working with so many men, so many levels, I'm talking industry leaders, I'm talking people who who manage regions, who have people that they lead, 20, 50 team, 100 team people, focusing on her response does not equal becoming the man that she needs. Now let's compare that with internally grounded men. This is a hero first leadership. This is where men focus on who do I need to become, what kind of man does she need, and how do I build that from the inside out. They're focusing on becoming that man. So they can be consistent, they can be calm, they can be present. They have one clear mission. So all their actions flow from their character, not scattered. They're not reactive. They create internal stability so their wives can finally sense the strength, so that they can finally feel the leadership, so that they can finally trust again. They can focus on being, not convincing. Their main focus is becoming the kind of man she can't help but feel safe with. And they're true leaders in their marriage because they're not manipulating her emotions, they're mastering their own. And in my opinion, after working with all those men, less than 5% of men actually focus on internal transformations. And this is what it looks like. My wife started talking to me again after 3 weeks. My wife initiated intimacy for the first time in months. If you talk to any marriage therapist, they said, oh, that's rare. That doesn't happen that fast. But what if I told you that both of these results came from men who stopped trying to fix their wives and started becoming the men their wives needed? You can literally see the shift happen. The moment they stopped chasing and started leading from within, everything changed. And that's because even though changing her mind feels urgent, becoming the man is what she actually needs. So how do you actually know what kind of man you need to become? Well, you use something we call as a mirror exercise, where you essentially look at yourself in the eyes and ask the hard questions. You stand in front of the mirror, alone, quiet, for 20 to 30 minutes, because at that time, you can't BS yourself. You ask yourself, what do I see? How do I see myself? What words come to mind when I see myself? Where's the hero within me? How do I feel about myself? And whatever you discover, you track it, you write it down, and you use that as your starting point. Because what happens is when you do this way, essentially understanding yourself first and then leading second, when you're being able to say, okay, I see where I've become weak. I see where I've been reactive. I see where I lost myself. Let me rebuild that. Well, then you have a solid foundation to lead from. You have a man who shows up the same way every day. Maybe she's watching you to stay calm during chaos. Maybe she's watching you to lead the confidence. Maybe she's watching you handle the pressure without crumbling. And your presence is saying the same thing. You're safe with me. Compare that to what most men do. They try 50 different random tactics because some expert told them to, and then they create confusion. And then something works once and they try to repeat it and doesn't work the second time because there's no foundation. But instead, if you can do a little bit of work up front, it takes literally 20 to 30 minutes with yourself in the mirror. You can discover exactly who you need to become. And you use that as your blueprint. Well, then you can have probably the most powerful tool as a husband. So we focus first on becoming the man internally, and then we let those actions flow naturally. For example, I have a client named Jacob. He did the mirror exercise. He realized he had been carrying himself without confidence, without presence. He didn't even realize it until he looked himself in the eyes. Within 30 days of rebuilding that internal foundation, his wife reached out. She said, I don't know what feels different, but I feel like I can talk to you again. Another example is a client who realized through this process that he had completely lost his sense of purpose. And that's a huge one. He was just existing, going through the motions. Once he rebuilt that internal fire, that sense of mission, his wife told him within 60 days, I feel so much safer when you know where you're going. So take a hard look at yourself as a third person looking in. You have to do it as somebody who's observing without judgment, not emotionally reacting to what you see. And you have to ask yourself, who have I become? Is this the man I want to be? Is this the man she fell in love with? And if not, who do I need to become? And for most men I talk to, they've never asked those questions. And look, you can skip this step. I'm not saying you can't try tactics without it. But just don't expect to save your marriage from surface level changes. It's literally just guessing and hoping at that point. So focus on unlocking that hero within first, and every action you take after that will rebuild trust like clockwork. Step 2 is behavior is greater than words. Now, this is going to piss off a lot of therapists out there who say, oh, just communicate more, just talk about your feelings, just explain that you've changed. This literally couldn't be further from the truth. Trust me, I know this because I had been trying to talk to my wife into trusting me for years, explaining, apologizing, promising, and yet nothing worked. Now, sure, communication is important, but words without behavior are worthless. And what nobody tells you is that I had to figure that out on my own, which is rebuilding trust has absolutely nothing to do with what you say, has everything to do with what you do. See, behavior is proof of your transformation. It is how she knows you've actually changed, the consistency, the follow through, the actions. The truth is nobody wants to hear, I promise I've changed, I'll be different this time, because she heard that before. So you need to show her through behavior so that she can actually feel it. So if you really want to save your marriage, you have to stop talking about change and start living it. And you could be so upset. You could tell me, but I need to communicate. I need to explain myself. Well, have fun staying stuck. But if you actually want to learn how to rebuild trust, you need to focus on behavior first, words second. And so this is almost the exact same husband, same man, but different approach. On the left-hand side, he's explaining and apologizing and promising. His wife stays shut down. And on the right-hand side, he's showing up consistently, staying calm, leading with confidence. His wife starts to open back up. The only difference was behavior instead of words. And then once I figured out, wow, If I could just focus on consistent behavior instead of just trying to talk her into trusting me, well, then I could save my marriage way faster. That's exactly what happened. Now, it's not uncommon for men to see breakthrough moments within 30, 60, 90 days because what they were doing is that they were trying to prove through behavior, not promising through words. So remember, behavior is how you prove to your wife that you actually have changed, not through what you say, through what you do. So now I spend 90% of my focus on consistent behavior and only 10% on communication. Right? Behavior is a difference in a wife who stays shut down and one who opens back up. And don't just change behavior at random. Don't just say, oh, well, I'll try this and see if it works. Remember, the first thing we talked about was unlocking the hero within. Always start there. And then figure out, now that I know who I need to become, let me embody that consistently. Step 3 is be strategic with your 3 stages. Now, there are 3 main stages in the emotional layering protocol. A lot of people don't know this. Stage 1 is healing, the emotional healing process, or EHP. This is the foundation. This is where you rebuild emotional safety. You stop reacting, you start responding. You create the space where she can finally breathe again. You have to master the emotional stability. You have to learn how to stay calm when she's upset, how to listen without defending, how to create safety through presence. The real benefit of this stage is that it's immediate. Your wife will feel the shift right away. Even if she doesn't say anything, she'll notice that you're different. For example, you master staying calm during conflict. Your wife starts feeling safe enough to actually talk to you again. Now, the second stage is shifting, the emotional shifting process, or ESP. This is where you rebuild masculine leadership. You stop orbiting her emotions. You start leading with purpose. You become the kind of man that she can follow again. You have to master true independence. There's actually a framework when it comes to the shifting stage where you're rebuilding sovereignty. You're not alone. You're complete. You have your own mission, your own direction, your own purpose. And this is the most powerful stage for rebuilding respect. Because, like I said earlier, once you master the healing stage, the shifting stage happens naturally. For example, you stop asking permission and start leading with confidence, your wife starts respecting you again. And now finally, the stage that a lot of people want to jump to is bonding, the emotional bonding process, EBP. This is where you rebuild deep connection. You stop surface level conversations and you start real intimacy. You create the kind of leadership where she actually wants to be close to you again. You have to master vulnerability. You have to know when to open up and when to stay strong, when to lead and when to listen, when to push and when to pull. This is where most men want to start. But if you skip the first 2 stages, this stage just won't work. Using just one of these stages would only be like, fixing a one-legged stool. You need to fully integrate all 3 in order to save your marriage. Step number 4 is create a transformation ecosystem. Remember the emotional safety gap, right? She stopped feeling safe in 7 major moments across 11 different areas in 4 emotional layers. Don't wait for her to just randomly feel safe again. You create the whole process through your leadership. For example, in the healing stage, you focus on staying calm during conflict. You focus on listening without defending. You focus on creating safety through your presence. Then in the shifting stage, you focus on leading with confidence. You focus on having your own purpose. You focus on not needing her validation. Then in the bonding stage, you focus on deep conversations. You focus on quality time. You focus on physical connection. So this whole time, you're kind of creating this transformational ecosystem. All intentional, all strategic. And then in addition to that, when you master one stage, you don't stop doing it. You keep doing it while adding to the next stage. So it's creating a compound effect that's really only rivaled by the best marriages in the world. Between healing, shifting, and the bonding stage, and dialing consistency of all 3, we're rebuilding trust at every level with every action. And we know for a fact that the more consistent your leadership, the faster she opens back up. So don't just leave that up to chance. Don't just hope oh, okay, I hope she notices I've changed. Because in reality, you're competing with years of broken trust, years of disappointment, years of pain. And so you need to be intentional. You need to be strategic. You need to lead. Now, finally, I talked a little bit earlier, but I could really only touch on some elements of this. If you're serious about saving your marriage, if you're ready to stop yesing and start leading with precision, use the link below to book a call with my team. We'll walk you through the exact emotional layering protocol, the same system that's helped hundreds of men save their marriages. We'll show you how to apply the healing stage, how to master the shifting stage, and how to create deep connection in the bonding stage. And if you're ready to take this even further, if you want our team to guide you step by step through this entire process, book a call with my team using the link below. We'll walk you through exactly how to implement this in your marriage, and we'll show you the same strategies we're using to help men save their marriages every single day. Because here's the truth. The men who save their marriages in the next few months aren't going to be the ones who keep talking about change. They're going to be the ones who lead with action, who show up with strength, who rebuild trust through consistent behavior. And the emotional layering protocol is the system that lets you do that. So if you're ready to stop walking on eggshells, stop feeling like a stranger in your home, and start leading your marriage back from the edge, click the link below and let's get to work. Because your wife is watching, your kids are watching, and the man you become in the next 30 days will determine the future of your family. Don't wait, lead now.